Well, hello and welcome to this week's Hope in These COVID Days encouragement video. I hope that you are doing well. Um, Today we're going to continue with our series of testimony interviews. And we've done so far, Adam New, a testimony of him, a new believer, brand new believer in the last year. And then with Ray Robinson, we interviewed him, and he's been a Christian for many, many years. And today we're going to interview somebody who's been coming to our church for, well, I don't know how long she's been coming to our church. I'll have to ask her in a minute here. But she's been coming to our church for quite a few years, and just being a part of the college group and being a part of college ministry and life groups and done rooted, just to watch this young lady grow in her faith and trust in the Lord has been quite amazing, and I've enjoyed immensely. So today we are going to interview Randall Kreitzer. Am I saying that right, Kreitzer? Randall, welcome.
Thanks, David. How are you doing?
I'm having a blast. How long have you been coming to the church?
I've been coming to Bouquet now for about 3.5 years.
That's all?
I know.
No, seriously, it seems like it's been so much longer. Randall has been a part of our college ministry. She was part of our college ministry until she, even longer than she was supposed to, really, when it comes to age bracket, but we didn't want to let her go. So she was a part of college ministry for a long time. And then we did Rooted. So she joined Kurt and Krista's Rooted class, and now she's part of their life group. Randall also she's on our board and our leadership board, and she is in charge of Connecting Ministries, which is our greeters and ushers and things like that, and our welcome lunches, which has all been nixed, because we don't really greet people at the front door because the front door is locked. But Randall has got a real heart for serving the Lord and a real heart for serving other people and making friends and connecting with people. So hello, Randall. Welcome to the interview video.
Hello.
So Randall, as you know, maybe you've seen the videos, we are interviewing people to find out, how did they awaken to the love of God? How have they grown in the love of God? And how are they living out the love of God? So let me ask you the first question. And that first question is, how did you awaken to the love of God? And when did you awaken to the love of God?
So I grew up in a very unstable, not Christian household. My mom and father would fight, and it was very emotionally unsettling as a child and unstable. It took shortly after my parents divorced, and kind of growing up in that, kind of being confused of like they were fighting and then now they're separating and not really seeing the whole picture as a kid. I really had this void in my life. I was missing that father figure, and every kind of parental picture that you would typically see, it was not there. And so when we moved after my parents divorced, I moved right next door to a great family, friends of mine these days. And they just started inviting me over. And I was like, anywhere was better to be home than being home, because at home it was all fighting with my mom, and just we clashed. This was me being a preteen into early teens, where, you're already going through enough at that age of life anyway, and then to have divorce in there, and it's just not good. But anyway, I would do pretty much whatever they would do, a tag along when they went to church and youth group and everything like that, and I was starting to learn about the Word of God. I did have a lot of anger kind of built up in me from misunderstanding with my parents going through the divorce, and a lot of hurt there. So I was skeptical, and, it took a while, but it took a bit. But after going through all of that, God finally, really just broke through that anger and really became, really that father figure in my life. And that's really what I turned to him for, is, Abba, Father.
So that was preteens, you said, about what age? 13, 14?
I probably came to the Lord about 15, 16. Initially, it took a little bit, with dealing with all that. But I came to the Lord about 15, 16 years old. Mm-hmm.
And then since then, there's been no bumps in the road. It's all been smooth sailing, and, just a nice gradual walk with the Lord, right?
Wish I could say different. No. So being a new Christian and not really having that foundation of growing up in church, I wasn't really in the word as much as it was more of a relational faith I had, which is good, but I didn't really, seek after God in his word. And the church I was a part of split. And that was really, I noticed growing older that was more of my foundation than God was. And when, one of the families moved to Texas and then the other one kind of just did their own thing, I kind of didn't really know what to do. And so my support system kind of fell through because I didn't have the right support in the word, like I mentioned. But I ended up drifting. I was very involved in performing arts in high school, and then into college. I still pursued dance, and a lot of that lifestyle got wrapped up in the parties and the fun and all the worldly desires in the flesh there, and totally just kind of drifted away from the Lord at that point in my life.
So then when did you drift back? Or what was the catalyst, or, any of that?
So I was actually I found myself in an abusive relationship. I'm not physically abusive, but in other regards, and just not living in sin. I lived with this person at the time, and every day on the way home from work, I would drive by this church. And for the longest time, I just never gave it a second thought. But then as things were getting really bad, as I was kind of coming to the conclusion that he was cheating on me, that I really was starting to feel that pull. I mean, I just started to feel guilty, really, driving back by the church and just being like, wow, I really just lost myself in the world. And I started going back. He did threaten me that he was going to, break up with me and like all these other things. We don't need to go into that, but there was just, I don't know, going back and just mourning that I spent so many years away from God and then just rededicating my life to, follow after him, and he being the Lord of my life, and surrendering my wants, my desires, my worldly desires to follow him.
So how old were you now at this point when you rededicated your life and things kind of went crazy with the boyfriend?
It was about 27, maybe 27. Late 26.
So it was the church you were driving by? Our church?
No, it was actually a church in Palmdale. Oh, okay. And then shortly after that, by God's grace, I was able to leave that relationship with the confidence of knowing that I could leave, and moved in with a coworker in Santa Clarita. And then that's how I stumbled upon Bouquet, because I lived with someone who's a Jehovah's Witness, and I felt the need to really kind of defend my faith and, get back right with God. And it was one of those things where I was like, what's the closest? And there's this one really big church, and then there's one smaller that I was more used to smaller. And with how hurt I was in my life, I knew I needed really, I would feel more comfortable in a smaller family style church. And came once, and Joanne Henning, I was crying during the service because the worship was just, it always gets to me, but especially that day, right? And Joanne Henning ran after me after service, and I just opened right up to her, and I've been coming ever since.
That is fantastic. That's what we're supposed to do as church members. We're supposed to see the hurting and go to the hurting and bring Jesus to the hurting. That's beautiful. Thank you, Joanne. So let me ask you this question. So how have you grown? How would you say you've grown in those last, 3-4 years? Have you grown in the Lord, in your relationship, in your walk with the Lord? I've seen it tremendously.
Immensely. After rededicating my life to the Lord, it's been mind-blowing what he's done in my life. I could say after, I've never tried to idolize anyone in my life over him since then. I mean, I know we all stumble at times, but after going through something like that, he's definitely in the position he needs to be in my life. And I would say the one thing I was really holding on to that was really helping me or hindering me from growing further in the Lord was control over my finances. I really had a hard time with that, seeing my mom raise my sister and I as a single parent and being in debt. And that's also why I didn't go to college. I mean, I went to community college, but like didn't pull out student loans because I was terrified of the idea of being in debt, and I didn't want to find myself in that position. And finally trusting in him and starting to give my first, starting to tithe and really being like, no, the first fruits are for the Lord. He did all this for me. I need to give this to him and give back what's his. And literally a year later is when he blessed me with my house, which is just, it's phenomenal. And just everything he's done until then, even like serving on the board and initially as a clerk and then, connecting, it really goes to show that God can use anyone, no matter what your past is.
Yes, and he does use you immensely, and it's wonderful to see you. John Ogg always says, showing up for the appointment, and you do that. I mean, when people ask if you're available, and you're available, you show up and you give 100%, whether it's our missions trips to the Hopi people, whether it's connecting ministries, whether it was church clerk and the college ministries. Yeah, you were always there for people, and that's, I can see the Lord working through your gifts, talents, and abilities, and you are using those gifts, talents, and abilities to be a blessing to other people. Is beautiful. Well, I think you kind of already asked how you live out your faith, but maybe you want to hit on that a little bit more. How do you live out your faith?
Well, I'm an all or nothing kind of person, and just diving in head first. I mean, that's really the best way to go. Just diving in and just getting my hands dirty with getting involved. I mean, I think, like you had mentioned, it kind of just, certain people, that's just how I'm wired, I guess. But I've really enjoyed it, and God has blessed me with being able to be involved in such an amazing way. And I'm just so grateful for such a great church family to support me in all these different ways and really live out my faith amongst everyone else who's living out their faith.
And there's a lot of opportunities right now to show our faith and our faith being different than what we're seeing in the world right now. And I think that's why we're kind of doing this video series. Is our testimonies are so amazing. When I hear your testimony, when I've heard Adam's testimony, Ray's testimony in this series, every one of them is so different, and yet they're so impactful into the lives of other people, because everybody comes from a different place, and we need to come to a place where we can trust in the Lord. And not just for our salvation, that's the first step, of course, but then in our daily walk, trusting Him with our finances, trusting Him with our careers, trusting Him with, because your job, you're now work from home. I mean, your company basically said, going forward, you're going to be working from home. This life has changed. So being able to trust God in all of this, in all these changes, situations. So, well, let me ask you one more question, Randall, and that is, do you have any words of encouragement that you can think of as we leave with people that are watching this?
Absolutely, David. I would say that people are having a hard time being shut in, and now is a great opportunity to connect with people, and to also show your joy. I mean, people are hurting and confused and angry, and when they see that you're not as impacted as others are, they're wondering why. So it's a great time to really shine, for the Lord, and then start just pouring into other people's lives.
Thank you. I could not agree with you more. I think that this is really our hope that we have, our joy that we should have, which is different than happiness, because happiness is based upon our external circumstances. Joy is what's inside of us because of our salvation, because of the love of the Lord. When that joy is evident and it's showing out, people are going to ask questions, and people have asked questions, and we should be prepared to give a reason for the hope that's in our life. So, Randall, I thank you very much. I've enjoyed immensely getting to know you over the years, and watching you become a part of the Ogg family, the McCullum family. Just, you know, just you are all in kind of girl, as you said, and I enjoy that. And people love having you in their lives. And if you don't know Randall, I encourage you to get to know Randall. You know, especially when we get back together, say a big hello and give her a big hug. And because Randall's a good person to know. Randall, thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed this interview. I know I did.
Absolutely, David. It's been an encouragement, and I hope it encourages everyone else
Yeah,
too.
I do too. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.